Oh, we are live for the second time today. Have I got a joke for you to kick off tonight? What's blue and doesn't weigh very much? Light blue. Welcome to Design Career Network. We're an experienced design channel teaching designers how to enhance your career and get that UX job. I'm Andy Galpern, your host. I'm a growth UX designer, a content strategist, and I'm also a producer. And I live in San Francisco and run a group there called Cascade SF, which is an experience design organization. And during the daytime, I work with the biggest companies in technology. Oh, yeah. Including Adobe, Google, and more. And I also have been mentoring and working with designers all over the world pretty much for the past 8 years or so. And I love helping and guiding designers toward their passion, their purpose, and toward a meaningful career. So today I'm here with Magaly Green, who's a design recruiter at LinkedIn. And Magaly is going to talk about how to fill out your LinkedIn profile to get noticed as the product designer. And she hires designers to create economic opportunity for the global workforce, which is she does this through LinkedIn. And she pivoted from a career in exercise physiology, then became a talent acquisition specialist / design recruiter, where she found her true passion. And I'm going to bring her on stage. There we go. Hi, Magaly.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so excited to be here.
I am honored that you're here, and I really appreciate it. So just to let everybody know about the format, just in case you're all new, Magaly will give a talk, probably 25, 30 minutes, maybe 20 minutes, around there. And then I need to fix these headphones so they stay in a little better. And then we'll move on to Q&A, and I'll moderate. I'll be back after Magaly gives her talk, and you're in for a treat. So here, let's go ahead and add your presentation to the stream. And if you like this you're on YouTube, please go ahead and like and subscribe, because that helps us grow, and we want to grow real big. Yeah. All right. That's ridiculous. Okay. All right. Take it away, Magaly.
All right. Thank you so much for the intro, Andy. Everyone, I just want to say I know this is live, so I really appreciate everyone joining us. I know a lot of people are wrapping up their workday, so appreciate you being here, and I'm super excited. So a little bit about me. My name's Magaly, and I've been a design recruiter for about 1 year and 9 months at LinkedIn, but my total career at LinkedIn has been right around 2.5 years. Now, really, my role as a recruiter at LinkedIn starts from really, finding and sourcing talent through carrying candidates through the entire interview process and ultimately hiring them. But I'm also involved in a lot of cool stuff around strategies and initiatives and events and partnerships to build the design community, diversity, inclusion, and belonging initiatives. And then I love hosting, trainings, workshops, stuff like that, that's related to talent acquisition and really, helping my peers with their career growth and mentorship. So a little bit more about me. I was born and raised in Chicago, moved to the Bay Area about 3 years ago. And as Andy mentioned, I'm also a career pivoter. So started out in healthcare. Quickly realized it was not for me, and then moved into recruiting and tech, which I absolutely love. So I now live in the South Bay with my boyfriend. You can see us there. And our dog, Lola. I feel like everyone loves a good, puppy photo. So there she is. Lola is a rescue. And a lot of people are probably thinking, is she a doodle? She isn't. She's a wire-haired pointing griffin, which honestly sounds more like a Harry Potter animal, but that is an actual dog breed. She is the best. And last thing I just want to share is, ever since I was a kid, I've been really into drawing and painting, and most recently I've gotten super into some digital art. So these are just some drawings I made on my iPad, but I feel like this is why I'm really passionate about design. It's super interesting to me. I've always been drawn to design in all forms, and I love that I get to kind of marry this interest in design and art to also helping people and, really helping them better their lives. So moving on, let's jump into more about LinkedIn. I wanted you all to see some LinkedIn stats so that you can really understand the power that LinkedIn has for you in terms of reach that you can have. So you can see here 40 million people use LinkedIn to search for jobs, 57 million companies are listed on LinkedIn, and there are more than 15 million jobs open on LinkedIn. So many of you might know this, but LinkedIn is the largest online professional network, and you can use it to, of course, find the right job for you, the right internship for you, but you can use it to also connect and strengthen your, professional relationships, learn different skills, and then also stay on top of, conversations that are happening in the design community, and even things like world events and news. So one thing I want to call out here is that, a lot of folks are really familiar with the LinkedIn profile and your homepage and the news feed. That's where you spend a lot of time as members. But there's actually several additional lines of business that LinkedIn offers companies to leverage the platform in different ways. And this is important to know because it's tied to how recruiters find you. So one of these lines of business is called LinkedIn Talent Solutions, where tons of companies use it, even we use it internally, to find talent, to look for talent, and also to, connect with people as well. So you're probably thinking, okay, that's great. What can LinkedIn do for me as a designer? LinkedIn has a huge global audience. So whatever you're kind of looking for, whether it's contract, freelance, full-time roles, you'll most likely find a role for you on LinkedIn. Just, again, reiterating, at a given point in time, there's 15 million open roles. And so that's really anywhere from mom and pop shops looking for freelancers, all the way through, giant enterprise companies looking to fill their open roles. So really, a huge breadth of companies and roles, and really just depends on what you're interested in. So designers, you're probably thinking, I already have a portfolio. I put a ton of time into building this. Why do I need a LinkedIn? LinkedIn is a great addition to your portfolio, to your resume. It gives you access to recruiters, to hiring managers. And I think the biggest thing here is that, a lot of folks aren't necessarily familiar with sites like Dribbble, Behance, Medium, which are very connected to the design community. But not everyone outside of design is familiar with those. So LinkedIn gives you the ability to really kind of broaden your reach to people who, aren't in that design community. Something really interesting here too is that over 90% of recruiters and hiring managers use LinkedIn to find talent, which is a huge number. So, having a portfolio, having your resume, having Dribbble, Behance, Medium are all amazing. Adding LinkedIn in there is only going to really help. So let's jump into getting your LinkedIn profile together. I thought the easiest way to do this was to really walk you through some do's and don'ts that I've seen during my time in recruiting, and specifically design recruiting. I've really seen the full range from profiles that are basically empty all the way through ones that have so much content that it's difficult to read through them and really understand what's happening. So here are some tips and tricks that we're going to walk through so that you can really shape your LinkedIn page and stand out and make a great impression. Let's start with the do's. So the first biggest one is you really want to add your portfolio and recent work. So as I mentioned, having a portfolio, having a Dribbble, having all that stuff is great. And it really helps hiring managers and recruiters understand the type of work you do. So really making it, simpler for us to assess, your skill fit, your alignment to what we're looking for our open roles. And so when it comes to your portfolio, and I'm going to show you an example here, but you can add it in the website section when editing your profile, or you can just simply type it into your About Me section. Recruiters and hiring managers, I would say at this point, are like trained to look for portfolios in LinkedIn profiles. So I would say a must to have it if you're a designer. Also, you want to add your work, right? So you can add that to the featured showcase section and link that directly to your experience by company. And I'll show you what that looks like too. So this is actually a screenshot taken directly from Andy's profile, which is awesome. What's interesting about this isn't from Andy's profile, excuse me. This is from a screenshot from Andy's profile while viewing it in LinkedIn Recruiter. As I mentioned earlier, LinkedIn Recruiter is one of our tools that companies use to find, their hires. So you can see here, it shows Andy's LinkedIn profile, her social media that she's open to sharing, and then also her website. So Cascade, Design Career Network, and then her portfolio. So all this stuff is awesome because it showcases everything that you're doing, not only work and experience, but also, companies that you might own, volunteer stuff that you're taking part in. And this really makes you stand out. For every single design profile I come across, I click into LinkedIn Recruiter and I look at your experience and automatically, if I don't see a portfolio, scroll to the bottom to see if it's here. So I highly recommend making sure that you add all of your websites, portfolios, Dribbble, Behance links, all that stuff here because we will look at it. All right, next do add your work experience, describe the projects you've worked on, and of course your role. Details like working on end-to-end design process or that you are a full stack designer are really helpful to know. And I'm going to go to an example of this. So one thing I want to call out here is that there's definitely a line between too little and too much information. This is an example of, a very clear, structured format for explaining one's experience. This is actually taken from a design manager at LinkedIn, funny enough. And so, dense paragraphs make it really hard to scan and read. And really what recruiters and managers are looking for is to be able to quickly understand your work, see keywords, and make a decision, on if this person could potentially be a good fit for their role. So my recommendation here is to have a short paragraph, maybe 1 to 2 sentences around what your role is, and then bulleting out, the specifics around what's helpful for us to know, anything super important. So you can see here, managed and led premium growth design team. Okay, if I'm looking for someone to manage a growth role or a growth team, this person clearly would be probably good for the job, right? So we're always looking at these details to see if it's going to be a fit for the roles that we have open. And you'll see there too, right at the bottom, there's those links. And those are links to LinkedIn content, but you can add personal content there too for maybe a specific project you worked on during this time period or with this certain company. And recruiters and hiring managers can click into that to learn more about, whatever you may have worked on in that role. So my next recommendation, and this is a big one, do use keywords that align to the type of design work that you're currently doing. I know that's a bit of a mouthful, but this is huge because it's a crucial way that recruiters will find you using our LinkedIn Recruiter tool. And so I'm going to use the same example here. You'll see at the bottom, there's capitalized words like open to, free message, SMB search, etc. The way LinkedIn Recruiter works on the back end is essentially recruiters have the option to input keywords, filters, titles, years of experience, graduation year, all of these different filters so that we can narrow down our search. And so when you add in specific keywords to your LinkedIn profile, you're more likely to pop up in front of a recruiter on the back end. Something else I want to call out here too that isn't directly related to LinkedIn is that a lot of recruiters, a lot of hiring managers, and a lot of people who might not have LinkedIn Recruiter, the tool, for instance, are probably using Google in some way. And there's a way you can use Google using something called a Boolean search string to, similarly as LinkedIn Recruiter, find candidates. And so again, using keywords will pull you up in a Google search as well. So just a great way to really, make yourself easily accessible and searchable. All right. The next one is to definitely add your volunteer work, your speaker opportunities that you've had. Like, I'll definitely be adding this to my profile. Any mentorships that you take part in, all that stuff is super important because everyone loves to see, if you're involved with the design community and what you're doing outside of, your day-to-day. I think this really helps with building your personal brand. Now, building your personal brand on LinkedIn is important because, basically the more that you post and the more that you contribute, the more likely you are to show up on multiple people's feeds. And of course, with that, the more feeds you're on, the more likely a recruiter or hiring manager is going to see you. And so an example of this is adding your work, your mentorship, etc., to your featured page. Now, this is Aniruddha. Aniruddha's awesome. He's also a manager at LinkedIn on the design team, and he just had a talk with Andy a few weeks ago. So Aniruddha, check out his LinkedIn profile. It's very well built out. But you can see here that he's added his, different like events and stuff like that he's taken part in. And you can click into this when you're on his profile. But like I said, the cool thing is that when you actually post this, anytime it gets a like or a love or whatever any of those reactions are, it will also show up on the person who liked its feed. So it's a really good way to start spreading out and building, a following. One last thing I want to call out here too is, if you're new to LinkedIn and you don't have a ton of connections and you're trying to, figure out your way into building a network, I really recommend you following people and following companies. This is super helpful because it will really help you build your community. All right, so those are the do's. Let's move into some don'ts. I don't have a ton of profile don'ts because I honestly really like it when people are themselves on LinkedIn and, you do what you feel is right for you. But I think, some of them are helpful in terms of, what recruiters and hiring managers need or are looking for. So the first one is don't be vague with your title. A lot of the times I'll see someone put designer or something very vague where I'm like, okay, but what type of designer are you? I really have no idea unless you specifically put, I am a visual designer. I am a product designer. It really helps provide additional context and we can get a better grasp on the type of work that you're doing. Next is do not use unclear or jargony wording. It's really not helpful in helping yourself or helping others understand who you are as a designer. Having things like, I'm a unicorn designer that cares about users' needs it's great, right? But like, what does that really mean? And so having clear and concise language is really important. And it's especially important for those managers or those people looking to hire who aren't in tech, or who aren't super familiar with the design industry or any of the lingo. So I definitely recommend on LinkedIn staying very straightforward in terms of language and wording. All right, so those are my don'ts. And just to recap, don't be vague with your title. Don't use unclear or jargony wording. And a quick recap of the do's. Definitely add your portfolio and recent work. If you're able to not have a password on your portfolio, that's great. I definitely understand NDAs, but for sure, an open portfolio is super nice to have. 2, add your work experience, your projects, and your specific role that you had. Make sure to use those keywords so that you're easily searchable and accessible on LinkedIn and also even Google. And then lastly, be sure to add your volunteer work, your mentorship work, all of that kind of extracurricular stuff, because it really just shows, how much of a well-rounded designer that you are. And I wanted to just give some other tips and tricks that, aren't necessarily super related to your profile, but are really helpful in terms of finding a job. So definitely looking out for people who have the hiring frame. This is obviously a screenshot of my LinkedIn profile, but it clearly shows that, hey, I have open roles, definitely reach out to me. And if you click on my profile, you'll also see specifically what roles I have open, and you can apply for those, read the job description, et cetera, et cetera. And then on the flip side, I also recommend having open to work open. What's great about this is that it's a very clear indication to me as a recruiter and to hiring managers that you're interested in opportunities, right? What I'll add here is that you have the option with open to work to make it only visible to recruiters. So, depending on your kind of job status, really think about if you want to be open to work to the entire LinkedIn community, or if you really only want recruiters to see you. For me, I recommend people who are interested in contract work, who are interested in freelancing, are putting it on publicly. I would say folks who are looking to switch to a different full-time role might want to make it open to recruiters. And then the last thing that I'm going to add here is to search by hashtags, which a lot of people don't know about, to find quick and relevant information. So for instance, putting hashtag hiring, hashtag design will pull posts, people, jobs, groups. You can see that whole bar there of what it will pull that is using that hashtag. And so it's a great way to uncover jobs you might not have seen, people to potentially follow, groups to join, companies to review. So it really can do a lot in kind of uncovering the millions of companies that are out there. So that is everything from me. I, of course, have to give a quick shout out to the design team at LinkedIn. Absolutely amazing team. So be sure to check us out at design.linkedin.com. Also, Andy's going to be adding some resources to the YouTube page, but check this out for sure. You'll learn some more about our design organization, about our community within, LinkedIn Design, and you'll also see all of our open roles, which I definitely recommend that you apply to if you're interested. And that's all for me. Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you, Magaly. Everybody give it up. We need our round of applause before we go into the Q&A. Let's see some claps. Come on. Cheering. Woohoo. Where is everybody? They're asleep at the wheel. Don't worry, you did awesome. And you have I really like the hashtag tip where I actually didn't know that. Oh, there we go. Thank you.
Hello.
Yay. Hi.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
I hope that was helpful.
Well, it's about to be even more helpful. It was, but we're going into the next one. Oh, ask David, you're back. Michelle. Lucas helps me run Cascade SF events here in San
Oh,
Francisco.
cool. Hi, Lucas.
Amy, welcome back. Mr. Belmer. It's my boyfriend in disguise. Okay, let's hide. All right, thank you all. Woohoo! Okay, now let's go into the questions. We did have we had a couple questions about features, and I wasn't sure upon how much you wanted to go into that, like into explaining whether or not. Well, why not? Let's just
Yeah.
ask it. Okay, so. Amy always has the best questions. Hold on one second. But they're yeah.
Hopefully I know
Oh
this
wait, here.
question.
Actually, here, wait. No, this one. We'll start with this one because I like this one. How important
Ooh.
is it to get skill endorsements and written recommendations? Do recruiters look at this information? Does it matter to the search algorithm?
This is a fantastic question. Great question, Amy. I think it really depends on the recruiter. I know for me specifically, if I'm, searching for more context about a profile, like I'm not super sure what this person's doing, I need a little bit more to understand, then that's when I'll look at skills endorsements, written recommendations, because typically there'll be some type of knowledge in there around, hey, like Amy helped me create this awesome new product and it was on this feature. And so I would say add it on there. I don't think it's extremely critical, but it's definitely a nice to have.
I think also you look at like the selling point of a test. Like I have like I know it's like bragging, but I have like 40 endorsements on LinkedIn, and I just like rack them up because I'm like, well, if you like it, let's go ahead and document and like let everybody kind of from other people's perspective. That's the story of Andy, or how I helped, enhance their brand or their whatever, help them give a talk and design something, whatever. But I do think, I mean, it really depends on I think, well, listen to the recruiter. But I'm saying from a brand marketing perspective, I think it's always valuable to have other people's perspectives shared.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, and then I'm gonna ask Amy's other question. Amy, you get two. You get two right now, and then maybe some more later. Let's see if I can find it. Oh, I think, okay, so the question was, I don't see it like off, it's in here somewhere.
Is it the premium question?
Yeah, that's the question.
All right.
Does it? Yes, there we go. Okay.
Okay, so does having a premium account improve how you show up in search results in either LinkedIn Recruiter or general LinkedIn search? No, it doesn't. Something I really love about LinkedIn, and you probably hear this a lot, but it's pretty genuine. LinkedIn really is on a mission to create economic opportunity for the global workforce. And so because of that, we recognize that not everyone can have a premium account. Of course, there's features that are helpful with premium, like having free LinkedIn Learning, things along those lines. But even if you don't have premium, you're just as likely to show up in search results in both Recruiter and the general LinkedIn search. From my knowledge, there's nothing tied to bumping you up in results just because you have a premium account.
Yeah. That's good. I also like the features that you can really like investigate and look into companies when you're on a job search. I'm not endorsing, this is, LinkedIn did not endorse or sponsor this event. I just genuinely, well, I really wanted Magaly to share information, and also I genuinely love LinkedIn. So I feel like it made my career. So, okay, next question. What is the best way to appeal yourself to recruiters on LinkedIn if you just finished a boot camp and don't have real work experience in the design field?
Oh, this is a really good question too. For people just coming out of boot camps, what's critical to see is any projects that you've worked on, even if they were a part of your boot camp. We need to have an understanding of your skill set and of your where you're at, right? And so I would say adding your portfolio, as I mentioned in my talk, adding your portfolio, adding any Dribbble, Behance, any of that type of stuff is super important. And then, one thing I like to call out too is that just because you don't have design experience yet doesn't mean you shouldn't put your other experience on LinkedIn. Even things when it comes to, like, I used to be a waitress. So adding stuff like that is valuable too. It probably shows like, hey, I can handle when things get stressful. I can handle multitasking. So adding all of your experience, whether it was specifically in design or not, is also helpful too.
Awesome. Okay. This is an interesting question. How much weight does the LinkedIn learning certificates have with recruiters? It's like everything is like about the product of LinkedIn, but I guess that's what we're here for, right?
Yeah. So when it comes to LinkedIn learning certificates, I'll be honest, like they're nice to have, but they really don't sway me one way or the other in terms of choosing you to reach out to or for a certain role. I will say, of course, like I notice when people have taken a bunch of courses on LinkedIn Learning. So I'm like, hey, like they must be really active on LinkedIn. They must be active in LinkedIn Learning. Like they clearly are knowledgeable about our products, which is awesome, right? But I wouldn't say that, not having a lot of LinkedIn learning certificates is detrimental.
Yeah. I love LinkedIn Learning is awesome. It was lynda.com, then they acquired lynda.com, and it's like anything that you want to learn is pretty much on there, well, relating to like business, tech, design, industry, maybe other things that I don't know about, but
there's a lot on there. You can
even
you can like learn to play drums. You can learn how to paint, whatever you want. So
I didn't even know there was music lessons on there. That's rad.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And I love like the little snippets. There's like a snippet with like that Tim Ferriss was talking about like marketing and about targeting your audience and being very specific about, and it was like 2-minute little fragments, and it's just really well produced and really well. I mean, you guys have an incredible studio there, so I don't know. I'm like, woohoo, LinkedIn. All right. Okay. Now, this is okay. So I have a question before we jump into the next questions from our audience, cool. Which is there a preferred format that you like to see, like when you like to see people's skills or their accomplishments in? Would you prefer in bullets, or do you prefer it in like a conversation style? What is the best way for somebody to display their skills?
Yes. So
I know you went over some of this earlier on the,
yeah, no, definitely happy to walk through it again, because it is really important. First thing I'm going to call out again is having a clear title. So being specific about what type of design you do. And then breaking down that experience, right? Love bullets the most, personally. They're super scannable, easily readable, and you don't have to, I guess, like hunt as much for what you're looking for as you would in, like a dense paragraph situation. So if you can bullet it out, that's the route I would go. Take a look at my LinkedIn profile. Obviously, I'm a recruiter, so it's going to be different types of stuff, but I like to say I have a good format.
We should just copy Magaly's profile. Is it okay? Magaly Green in.com, LinkedIn.com/Magaly.
Yep.
That's there. That should, I had to put a space in between because YouTube won't post URLs. Here we go. My comments. Okay. Too much. I had too many spam messages. Okay. Let us. Oh yeah. Okay. Is there anything that you think designers, perhaps inexperienced ones, tend to highlight or focus on, but recruiters rarely pay attention to? I'm trying to understand. Designers. Okay, so like somebody with less experience, they focus on the wrong thing. If they rarely pay attention to it, what is it? Like, Do you think that inexperienced designers should? What is the focus that inexperienced designers should create their? How should they write their profile or put it together or basically present themselves so they have the best chance of getting hired? I
Yeah.
think, is that
Yeah.
better? Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yes.
totally
Yeah.
get this question. So first thing, and this is whether you're inexperienced or, someone who's a director, I feel like this is helpful for everyone. Definitely have your about me filled out. So everyone loves a good intro. An about me section is really there to have a quick glance at what you do, right? So, I'm a design manager at LinkedIn, and I'm currently running a team of 5 designers specifically for the search team. Add a couple more sentences. When I'm not working, you'll find me at the dog park and skateboarding. Something like that is cool, right? Get to know a little bit about your personality. Also get to know a little bit more about you professionally. When you're getting down to experience and your specific roles, I think I haven't really seen things that people focus on too much, but the major call outs that I want to see specifically for product designers is that one, you're working on the full end-to-end design experience. And then within that, what's your skill set with visual design, interaction design, leadership, storytelling. Storytelling, kind of hard to put on your LinkedIn profile. I guess that might be more of like an interview tip. Being really good at walking through your work is super crucial. That's probably a good one for inexperienced people to know.
Yeah. No, keep going. I'm like, what else?
Those are the
yeah.
big ones.
Yeah.
At LinkedIn, that's actually how we typically, assess for designers. So if we're able to see that you're really owning that, across the board, we'll probably be pretty likely to reach out after seeing your portfolio, seeing some work. If you're more experienced, calling out what you've done so far, maybe you don't have that leadership piece yet, but if you are pivoting from visual design and you have, dabbled in product design, just explaining what you've owned up until this point is really, really good to see and gives us that context.
And that's interesting because, is it Maha or Maja? Maha, I'll say Maha because it sounds cool. Do recruiters, welcome by the way, do recruiters pay more attention to designers' soft or hard skills? That's kind of like what you were just, is storytelling is kind of a soft skill / something that you have to learn though. Like, well, you still learn soft skills, I guess. A lot of
Yeah.
A-sides going on here today. Sorry.
No, that's all right. Soft skills are super important. Definitely, take a LinkedIn learning course if you want to build your presentation skills or your speaking skills. But both are super important. If I'm looking at a LinkedIn profile, I'm going to be focusing more on hard skills, right? I want to see what you're working on. I want to see if it's relevant. But I have to say, I love it when, on a LinkedIn profile or in a portfolio case study, there's some moments of humor. There's some moments of, seeing who this person is as a human. When you think about it that way, it kind of takes you out of the realm of social media and like the internet and more into like, okay, this is a real person and I just laughed at this sentence. So let me keep reading,
Yeah. It's kind of like the same thing of interface design, right? Like we have to humanize it to make people feel comfortable. You have to UX apply, like Natasha said last week, UX the bleep out of your portfolio, out of that's she's like, well, anyway, let's see. Okay. You can showcase your storytelling in your about section when talking about yourself. Yeah, or you can just give a talk. Record yourself.
Yeah, you can give a talk. You can now, I don't know if everyone has this feature, but I know it's rolled out, so I know I can talk about it. There's this new feature on LinkedIn that's pretty cool where you can record, I forget the exact name, but you can record a snippet of yourself and talk about, your role, like what you're interested in. It's pretty cool. Look into it. I wish I could explain it better than that.
It's like a short is what it sounds like, like a little short engagement piece to be
Yeah,
able to tell your story with a video.
exactly. Yeah. And I think, coming back to humanizing everything, like that's going to be a really cool feature.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Like putting like, so it's not just a, a I don't know. I get a lot of I mean, LinkedIn has been like incredible in terms of like me finding speakers and, looking for jobs, keeping track of the market and kind of understanding what it is that designers want to learn about, because I'm a designer, but then you look at what jobs are available and what kind of skills that they're hiring for. And it's like, okay, well, let's either create new people to fill these jobs. We need to train more people to fill these jobs if there's not enough of them, or I don't know, advertising it in a different way. But I'm kind of rambling here. I did have a question though. So what if somebody has a LinkedIn profile or maybe a resume of experience that's kind of like all over the place, yet it's all within a certain sector, like within technology, but like they've done like multiple roles. Is that considered, what would you consider like a product designer? Would they have to be working as a product designer for a long time, or do you want to see somebody who's like well-rounded? What is it that you're looking for in terms of hiring?
Yeah. Honestly, it depends on the role and it depends on, the level that's needed. So, when it comes to product design, say I'm looking for like a strong generalist. Typically, I'm looking for someone that has 3 years of experience, 2 to 3 years of experience in end-to-end product design. Now, if they had a couple years before that in visual design, but it was solely visual and they were just working on, maybe 3D animations or something like that, that isn't the same like depth and scope of product design. And so I would really be focusing on like, okay, they have 3 years of product design, they're going to be at this level. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, it does. But then you're basically saying that they, as a product designers, most people here should know what product design is, but it's like user experience, the whole user experience from like product thinking, research, all the
Yep.
way to working with the developer, launching the product, and, like interactive wireframes in the middle, and then actually like turning it into a product. It's like seeing it all the way through. But then you have like a visual designer or a user interface designer who will be mostly, well, if they're doing just UI though, then you're saying that they're like decorating the interface or making it maybe more uniform. Maybe like design systems. Would that be the same? Would it, maybe if they added that word into their into their profile, they suddenly become more experienced in UX? I don't know.
So it really depends on the role, right? Because we don't just hire product designers, we do hire design systems designers, visual designers, brand marketing designers. I only recruit primarily for product design, so that's what I know. But I think just being really clear about your experience is the most helpful thing. And really recruiters across the board, from my understanding, I have a lot of recruiter friends, use LinkedIn in the same way. And so when it comes to LinkedIn Recruiter, the tool, how we search and find candidates, it's pretty similar across the board. So just having a strong profile and clear experience is really helpful.
Awesome. Can you, and then one more question. Can you tell me a little bit about the process? Since Aniruddha is here, I'm like, about the process of when a candidate applies, what is your role like? Do you look at the resume, and then what makes you decide whether or not to pass it on? And then how much interaction and relationship building do you do with the candidate?
Yeah. Wow, that's a good question. So it's definitely different, in terms of if I'm actively like sourcing someone. Sourcing is basically like trying to find or looking for a certain, type of designer, versus applicants, right? Because applicants, we know, are interested in the role 100%. And so it's very easy to reply to an applicant through our applicant tracking system and start a conversation. When I'm first looking at an actual application, I always review their resume and their LinkedIn profile. Always look at their LinkedIn profile. From there, if it looks like they're matching the years of experience I need, the types of roles and titles, then I'll, of course, go ahead and look at their portfolio. Also, if I'm lacking a bit of clarity in those areas, I tend to go to their portfolio so that I can try to get a deeper understanding. And then in the portfolio, I really want to see recent case studies. I know that sometimes people don't have time for that, or projects are under NDA. So if you're able to share recent work, definitely please do it. But if you only have like older work on your portfolio or it's under NDA, I first of all recommend to say that in your application. Don't put it on your resume, but typically tools like, applicant tracking systems give you some type of space for a message to the recruiter or the hiring manager. I would add that there so that we know that, hey, I'm not going to see anything on this portfolio that's new, but if I talk to them, they can walk me through a case study, or if we do a video call, I know they can walk me through a case study and I can understand more. So from that point, if everything's looking good on the portfolio, the LinkedIn profile, your resume, I'll reach out and have a phone call with you, talk about your experience, your interests, talk about our roles a bit more in depth, walk you through the interview process, answer any questions you might have. And then, if it's all thumbs up, we'll put you forward into the interview process. I know that was a lot.
Oh, no. I'm like, yeah. And then the interview process would be moving on, passing them to like, is it like a general, like, because I know that at Facebook, they have a big pool of like product designers, and then they interview you to basically see, like, they just interview you to see like your talent, your skills, and then they find out where you fit after, unless there's like a specific role. When they're generally like recruiting, they just like, shovel them all in and be like, okay, do they work or do they not work? But then what happens next after it goes into the product manager? Do you manage the process all the way through?
Yeah, so I manage the process all the way through. Typically, after me and the candidate have had our conversation, I'll share, their profile, their portfolio, notes from our conversation with the hiring manager. And that's also something I say to the candidate. I'm like, hey, next step is I'm going to share this with the hiring manager. Are you okay with me sharing some of the notes I've taken here, et cetera? So always making sure that whatever I'm sharing is, okay by the candidate. If everything looks good from the hiring manager, then we bring you into the interview process. The first step in the interview process is the technical screen stage. This differs across companies. Interview processes are different probably at every company. For LinkedIn, we have technical screens that's made up of an app critique and a case study review. If that all goes well, then you'll go to the final interview, which is a presentation and several one-on-one interviews. After that point, LinkedIn has, we're similar in that we do holistic hiring, right? Which for us means when we are bringing someone into the interview process, we don't want to just silo you into one role. We want to make sure that we're considering you across multiple teams. And really what that does is give this person a better chance to find the right team for them and what they're going to be interested in, and also be more successful at LinkedIn. So we really try to be super thoughtful with our interview process. And my job as a recruiter is to make sure that you, the candidate, understand what's going on, understand how to prepare, what to expect, understand our timelines, all of that good stuff. I want to make sure that you feel like you know what's going on and that you're prepared and comfortable. all the way up to the point where, we hopefully hire you.
Okay. And then my follow-up question, of course, would be, say that I've gone through like 3 interviews and it's all feels good, but then I get a message, quick message, like a default message. Sorry, this didn't work out. We moved on. We've decided to go with other candidates. Is it normal for designers to reach out to the recruiter and get feedback? Can the recruiter provide feedback? It would be so helpful if people understood what their skills were lacking and then what they could improve on. But I know there's like legal stuff, but I'm curious from a recruiter's perspective, how do you view giving feedback to an applicant who didn't quite make it?
Yeah. One of the biggest sayings at LinkedIn is feedback is a gift. First off, let me say that if you are going through our interview process and we decide to not move forward with you, I know that I personally would not send you an email saying that. I would get on the phone with you and deliver that. I'm someone who really cares about the candidate experience. And so I don't think it's cool personally when, you just put all of this time into preparing for an interview or a presentation and then you just receive like a, hey, sorry. So what I like to do is definitely have a phone call with the person. I am able to discuss high level feedback and really just, talk about some areas of opportunity, the areas where, the candidate may have been really strong so they can use that moving forward. And something too is that, just because you don't, get hired the first time around doesn't mean that it's a no forever, right? Like you can always reapply. You can always be reconsidered, whether it's at LinkedIn, whether it's at all these other companies. So I just want to say too that, if you're getting, rejections and stuff like that, like you will get a job, I promise.
Yeah. And then also there's like so many different departments doing all these, like, I mean, like, I'm like, well, I've been consulting with Adobe for the past 2.5 years or whatever. And I've worked with 5 different teams maybe. And it's just like, if one thing does, like, there's always something to do, but it might not, you just need to find the right fit. I do agree with that. And I think that that's a really good point. We're going to keep, since we have you here, we're going to keep you, we're milking it.
Okay.
Getting it all. Okay. Would recruiters think a candidate might be disingenuous if they list themselves as a product designer, but their experience doesn't reflect a recruiter's definition of the role?
That's interesting because
change your title, get the money. Hold on. I'm pressing mute.
This is an interesting question because when I read this, if I see that your title isn't matching your experience, I don't think you're a disingenuous person. I think that, the thing with design recruiting is that a lot of the titles are very ambiguous. And so I see plenty of people who list themselves as a product designer, but they're actually more closely related to something like an industrial designer where they're working on physical products, right? And then I'll see people who are putting themselves as interaction designers. And really, in my understanding of an interaction designer, that's not full end-to-end design. But if I'm reading their experience and it says running full end-to-end design process, this is just the title the company gave me, then I'll still definitely reach out to you. So really providing that context under your title is crucial because really titles can mean anything, Yeah,
but is it okay to change your title to a more descriptive, to one that you feel like, say I worked at a job and I didn't really agree with the title they gave me because it didn't quite accurately describe the work that I did. Would it be unethical to change the title to be more like targeted as like a, for your resume, to be more like accurately describe the role that you're working on?
I honestly don't think that that's a question that I am enabled to answer. I think that's something that you might want to chat with your company about. Some companies are very specific with their titles, and reflecting that, I don't know if you could be bound legally to that type of stuff. But I wouldn't, change your title to something that it's not what was on, your written offer letter or what you're considered internally at your company.
Yeah. Like what it's considered internally is different than, well, I mean, then whatever. But I get what you're saying.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Okay.
no, it totally does. Absolutely. Okay. Now we had one more question. Well, it's about algorithms. I don't know if this Amy always wants to know the details, like what's happening behind the scenes. Do LinkedIn recruiters, Google, or general search algorithms pull from all areas of the profile or just some of them?
Good question. I don't know about Google or like general search algorithms. I am not a technical person, but I do know that LinkedIn Recruiter does pull from all areas of the profile. And I know that because on the LinkedIn Recruiter tool, it will highlight on my end the keywords or whatever, search terms that I entered that are pulling up on the actual profile. So I can see it live that it's coming from about me, or it's coming from this experience, or it's coming down from, a skill that they have.
Okay. Oh, yeah, by general search, it meant the search box on LinkedIn. Thanks. Thank you. Okay. And okay. Well, and what is okay? How do you approach recruiters in a way that doesn't come across as opportunist? Well, I think you want an opportunity, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
It's all about the message. Being really thoughtful about your message to recruiters will make you stand out. I probably, not exaggerating here, receive upwards of 50 messages a day from people. And the ones that stand out to me are the ones that are kind, that I don't know, like have a bit more personality, that really show genuine interest. Like I love seeing that stuff. Messages that I don't love are ones that are open role. And then the message might be, I'm interested in this. Can we have a call? Okay. Like 50 other people just asked me that. So if you can take a little time to really, shape your message, it doesn't have to be super long, but just making it personalized goes a long way.
awesome. Okay. And I know that we have maybe time for like one or two more questions. And I'm like looking through to see what else we have here. Because I feel like you've included so much useful information and people are like, okay, well, I have them all answered. I'm like, what else would the QA is really amazing. Thank you all for the great responses. Thanks, Lucas. Woohoo. Okay. Well, actually, do we have any more questions behind? No. Maybe okay, so do you have examples? I don't know if you can show them, but of like the best product design portfolio. No, we won't say portfolio. The best product design LinkedIn profile that you've seen, or some of the top ones that you would recommend modeling, or besides your profile as a recruiter, which is awesome actually to have as a reference, but
so, I don't necessarily want to share profiles because I don't have people's permission. I understand that LinkedIn is a public platform, but I don't want to like broadcast people's names in that way. But definitely check out, I know like I got specific approval from Anna Ruda and he has a really good profile, Anna Ruda Kadam. Another one of our design managers who also gave me approval to share some of her to share pieces of her profile was Jingxi Li. She's also a design manager, but she's awesome. Her name's spelled Jinxili.
Hold on. Hold on. Sorry, what?
It's
Or-
J-I. Can I write it in here? I don't think I
Yeah,
can,
you
right?
can. You can. You can write it in the comments.
Wait,
Think
I don't know.
Jix. Okay, Jix.
Here, I'll put it
Okay.
Jinxili.
Oh, Jinx.
Oops.
Yeah, Jinxie. Oh, I got it.
Cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I highly recommend like following some of the leaders at LinkedIn. Um, Also, some of our super senior designers, even our IC designers, like everyone. There's a lot of people very involved in the design community. So if you're interested in whether it's roles at LinkedIn or just building, your own personal brand, your community, be sure to follow some folks. It really does help expand your network.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Okay. Now, repeating my question. Thank you, by the way. Thank you. Well, thank you, Magaly. And also thank you, Harveen, for repeating your question. It's like there are some that I might have looked over. When I see a team leader, a company leadership person, look at my profile, what should I do? Should I message them? Should I ask them what interests them? How do you ask? How do you start a conversation with somebody who might be, who's interesting?
Yeah, I think when you see someone has looked at your profile, definitely reach out if they seem interesting to you or relevant to you in your career. Um, Again, just going back to having personalized, kind messages is always going to set you apart. I think acknowledging like, hey, I saw you took a look at my portfolio. Thanks so much. Or not my portfolio, my profile. Thanks so much for stopping by or something cheesy. I'm a very cheesy person, but something like that, and being like, I saw you work at XYZ company. I've followed them for quite some time. I'm super interested in roles. Is there, I don't know, you can frame it in a bunch of different ways. Is there any roles that you would recommend? Are you open to having a coffee chat with me to get to know each other? Depending on what you need and what you're looking for, you can frame, your messages. Honestly, if you are struggling with how to communicate on LinkedIn and write messages on LinkedIn, I'm sure there's a learning course, but I know you can definitely Google it and find some pretty decent blogs and resources around how to structure like professional messages and stand out when doing it too.
Absolutely. There's also the book like How to Say It for Business, and I actually like it's funny because like I'm gonna give this anecdote because I think it might be helpful. So I studied graphic design, but then I became a content strategist maybe like 4 or 5 years ago after producing all these events, wanting to create more content. But then I decided, well, I have to blog in order to be able to produce content. I can't just make like videos or events. I have to actually create content. So I went back and I learned how to write. And I've always been like pretty good at writing, but then I learned how to like sharpen my skills, and I picked up some like third grade English grammar books and did a bunch of exercises and like learned like how to form sentences properly. And I know it sounds very basic, but it just clarity, especially when it comes to like UI design, UX. Beyond that, also your personal skills, your soft skills. It makes such a difference when you're able to communicate, and then also that comes with you being clear as well. But it's just like distilling and distilling. But I would definitely recommend that everybody, regardless of what field you're in, you should learn how to be a good writer, because that will help you communicate better. So love that book. Oh yeah, how it said, that was another one. And then also LinkedIn Learning has, well, endless. It's like a library of endless awesome. Okay. Now one more. And then after this we have one more question, and then we are closing the curtains. So, okay. How would you suggest to have a resume and a LinkedIn profile be identical word for word to promote personal branding?
No, I would not. Big thing with resumes is that you want to keep them on one page as much as possible. LinkedIn gives you a little bit more flexibility to make it a bit more personal, add some, like I said in your about me, like some about you as a human, versus your resume is what's your experience, what's your education, what are your skills, what's your contact information. Like a resume is a very quick, like, I want to look at this and completely understand what's going on. LinkedIn, yes, like I do want to quickly be able to read it and for it to be scannable. But a LinkedIn is a place where you can, I think, add much more of your personality than, say, a resume.
And
so
then
don't
also
make it identical.
Yeah. What about like the details though? Like for your like as you grow as maybe as into like management and you have 10 or 12 or 20 years of experience, how do you condense that? And that's actually a good question to ask you. What do you want? Do you have to include all of your employers on your LinkedIn, or do you just include the most relevant ones?
So what's interesting is that I recommend on your resume, you really don't need to show more than the past like 3 to 4 companies. And then if you have a bunch of other companies, maybe list a few. If you can fit them all, list them, but you don't need to necessarily, like, I don't need to know what you were working on specifically 15 years ago, because it's probably changed and evolved so much from then that it might not be super relevant to what you're doing now, right? So on your resume, keep it very sweet, condensed, short. On your LinkedIn profile, I actually recommend that you do put all your experience there. The nice thing about LinkedIn is that it condenses it for you so that if I'm a recruiter, I can click show more and then keep scrolling, show more and then keep scrolling. So it's not like a resume where I have to flip through like 5 pages, right? LinkedIn's different in that you can really control what you're looking at. So like I said, I would add all your experience to your LinkedIn. Once again, like if you're adding what you did right out of college and that was 20 years ago, I wouldn't necessarily worry about having like bullets to describe what you were specifically doing, but maybe a sentence or 2 sentences. Like save time when you're that far back in your work experience. The more relevant you get, the more current you get, the more details you should add.
Awesome. 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 And I think that's it. I think that's all of the time. Although we want to pick your brain a little bit more. Wait, hold on. I have one company so many years. Should I go back? Huh? What? How many years should I go back with one company?
Same thing.
Yeah.
Like if you're
Okay.
holding multiple roles within one company, same
Mm-hmm.
situation, right? Like I know people, my mom was at the same company for 35 years, but she of course got promoted and like did a bunch of different stuff within that time. So just break it down. Like you probably see in LinkedIn, you can have your company and then you can have your specific roles. So break down your roles in that case. And then same thing applies where, add more details for the more relevant roles.
Awesome. I feel like from watching all these weekly, interviews, one of the things that I've learned the most is like stay relevant and always keep up your work, so that way when a recruiter sees your work, they'll actually see that you're like active in the space.
Yeah.
So what if somebody's applying and they haven't designed something for like maybe 3 or 4 months? Do you push? Does it different than, or maybe like a year? Is it different? Does your perception change if it's from like an old portfolio, or do you want to see something more current?
Yeah. Honestly, I love to see as most current work as you can show. Like I said, if you're under an NDA and you've been under an NDA for the past 3 years, like we get it, of course. Like you can't show that work, right? And so if the work that you show you feel is not your best and you're like, these visuals are from like 2011, like obviously this is not what design looks like now. We know that too, right? And we have an idea where, okay, this is the last work I've seen. It's been 5 years, like I'm probably going to make the assumption that you've grown a lot in terms of your design. Now, when I'm seeing design that is, I would say within 2 years old and it's not super strong, that's when I start to get a bit concerned. You're more likely to make kind of big leaps and bounds in terms of design over, more experience that you have. So if you are showing work from like a year ago that's not super strong, I recommend putting up, your more recent projects or whatever you've been working on, to see how you've grown, and any changes that have been made from that previous work.
Awesome. Very helpful. Very helpful. Thank you, Magaly. This was awesome. I really appreciate you coming on today, and you're always welcome back on Design Career Network. Thank you, everybody, for participating in the chat. And Dara, don't worry. We all make typos sometimes. Don't worry. I'm sorry. I called it out on, I meant to just type that bit. It's all good. Anyway, thank you guys and girls and she's and thems and theys, whatever. Thank you all for coming out tonight. We really appreciate it. We'll be back, I believe, on June 3rd. I still need to update the website, but we have Matt May from Adobe, who does the head of accessibility at Adobe. He's going to be talking about how to get a job in accessibility, kind of what he does as a product designer for accessibility and the types of things that he tests for. And it will be very interesting, and I'm excited for that. As well as Peck is from Impeccable. He's going to be talking about how to start your own design agency, or should you? Like whether or not you are suitable for design, to run your own design agency, work as a freelancer, or work as a freelancer. But if you wanted to run a design agency, he'll give you the steps and explain to you kind of like the overview of what the entire world looks like inside that design agency. So thank you all coming by. Make sure that you like our video, smash that subscribe button. Oh yeah, do push-ups on it? No. and I think that's it. Thank you. Have a good night, everybody. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Hang on.